Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, here in the second session of the day. Right now, with us, we have Dr. T. Sunil Kumar from IIT Tirupati. Professor Sunil Kumar, sir, is Head and Associate Professor at the Department of Chemical Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh, India. Sir has earned his PhD in Chemical Engineering from University of Notre Dame, USA in 2003. Sir is alumni of Indian Institute of Sciences, IISc, Bangalore. He did his ME in Chemical Engineering in the year 1999. In terms of experience, Sir is having mixed experience from industry as well as academia. Sir was head modeling and simulation at Innovate Software Solutions Private Limited, Bangalore in the year 2007-2008. He was also senior researcher at General Motors India Science Lab, Bangalore from the year 2005 to 7. He was also a research scientist at HU, that is Hindustan Unilever Research Center, Bangalore, India. Apart from industrial experience, he was at National Institute of Technology, Warangal. He was as an associate professor from the year 2018 to 19, assistant professor 2012 to 18. He was also a part of Department of Chemical Engineering, RVR, and JC College of Engineering, Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. In terms of the honors and awards which Sir has to his accounts, Sir is a recipient of MP Cherry Memorial Medal Award from Indian Institute of Chemical Engineers, IICHE. In terms of IPR, Sir has granted one IPR, one patent on corrosion and drying process, and 2 are filed in the area of unit operations related to 2G bioethanol production from agri-waste biomass and air sterilization. Next and very important thing I would like to discuss about Sir, Sir has published 2 books. He has written 2 books. The first one is very critical topic, that is transport phenomena for chemical engineers. So Sir has published one book for the transport phenomena, and the other one is based on success. Apart from this, I would like to tell you to all the participants, Sir is one of the COVID warrior from academic section, as he worked for one of the to have a patent. I have mentioned somewhere, but I think this is thermal sterilizer for air laden with coronavirus. So that was the patented technology he has invented during the COVID, when all of us were at home. Sir were working in the laboratory for the betterment of human community. So I took this snapshot from ETV Telangana. So that's about Sir. I can speak much more about the Sir, but this is the brief introduction about Dr. T. Sunil Kumar from IIT Tirupati. Thank you very much, Sir, for joining this session and accepting our invitation. So I will stop sharing my screen and I will give you rights.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dr. Ritesh, for the nice introduction. Yeah. So
now you can share your screen, please.
Yes. Yeah. Can you see my slides? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please go to presentation.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put it in presentation mode. Yeah. So, sure. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be introduced by Dr. Ritesh, who was a PhD scholar at NIT Warangal when I interacted with him. He's a very studious and innovative researcher. He worked in fluidization, so I too learned a little bit watching him sitting at the computer. Like, he used to run the program, give it for running, and then used to keep do not disturb on the some small piece of paper at the computer, and the next day he used to come back and look at the results. So he has achieved quite a bit in his simulation work at NIT Warangal, and now I'm happy to see him as organizer here at University of Marwadi University. And so the first time he contacted, he said it's technical, but it has to be a little bit related to research and teaching. So I gave some topic whether I can give a topic on traits of engineers, like how to inculcate suitable traits in engineers. So he agreed for that, and I was very happy to take up the task of preparing a talk and presenting, sharing it with all of you. We can have an interaction maybe after the talk a little bit. So I'll try to complete by 1:15 or 1:20 my talk, and then after that we can have discussion on that. And it can be that I may not be able to answer some questions, but someone in the audience will be able to answer your questions. Okay. So I'm thankful to the GUJCOST, which is sponsoring this short-term training program. So let us get into the talk. So this white one guy is standing out in a crowd. So how to be a successful engineer is what I'm attempting at. Like not just the textbook knowledge, but maybe one needs to have other skills how to be a great engineer, right? Yeah. Yeah. So first, let me give my own qualifications, which Dr. Ritesh has mentioned already. So I, just like many of you, I too have BTech, MTech, and PhD in chemical engineering. And industry experience I have in R&D about 5 years, and teaching and research 13 years. So it has been a long, I mean, I would say like 10 years of chemical engineering, writing exams, and sometimes the same subject comes in BTech, MTech, and PhD. So that's what the transport phenomena was. And I was having that goal, we should write a small textbook for the students, especially that topic. There is one famous book from Bird Stewart, Lightfoot, which is very difficult to understand. So I have attempted to write a book that is understandable by our students. So that gave me an opportunity. It has been few years, and people have adopted it in their curriculum in chemical engineering. Okay. So I'm going to share what my experience is as an engineer, and also my colleagues whom I have observed, and some of my students and some of my teachers. Yeah. So what is the definition of engineering? That's the question that I faced, when somebody asked. So I'm going to pose the same question to everyone. Like, what is the definition of engineering? Like, the word has engine in it, so probably it is related to mechanism of automobile engines or something like that. Or engineering sometimes also gives us an idea that we are going to modify something and innovate something, right? But that is still in technical domain. So I have a definition. So if you also have some definitions, we can discuss. Probably I'll complete my slides and then we can have a discussion in between. Or depends on what the policy Dr. Ritesh is following. Dr. Ritesh, shall we have discussion during the presentation or after that? Is it okay?
So whatever you feel in between
Yeah.
or at the end.
Yeah. We can have a discussion during the talk also. During the talk also, please post your question. If we can, if I can see the chat box, then we'll be able to discuss that question.
Sure.
That may be, a good option, I think. Okay. So what I have is like after looking at, right from my childhood, I've been reading newspaper, some magazines. Everywhere they write that India is a developing country. So, and as a person, we also might have seen there are so many problems. Every time we keep complaining, this is not there. Yeah, sure. So it appears that people need comfort. I mean, feel that engineering provides comfort. If there is electricity supply to a village, there is a street light, there is a TV working, there is a mixie working, all these things. So what is it doing to the overall human involvement? So what I feel is that engineering is the act of developing devices and systems which are substitute to human and animal labor. So if you take a tractor. A tractor is a substitute for the cows that are used, ox that are used in the fields. Okay, when we take an automobile, it is a substitute for the ancient horse carriage and things like that. So, and then let us say we take a lift in an apartment. What is it doing? Like, it is reducing our effort. I mean, instead of climbing the stairs, we are going inside a box and pressing a button. That one takes it up. So how is it taking it up? That is the technology. So that's when one starts to become questioning how things work. So these all the students in engineering stream, we should tell them that they should read books like how things work. Like, there are books with title like 101 ways, 101 things, or 101 ways how things work. Like that, how does a pump work? How does a TV work? How does a cell phone work? How does a computer work? Simple, like one-page descriptions. So that gives rise to curiosity. Okay, so then one will have some kind of goal in their life. Suppose someone has grown up in a place where there is a shortage of water. Let us say people have to travel 1 kilometer to fetch water to their homes in the village. Then the answer to that is we have technology, right? I mean, a water pump, a centrifugal pump can be connected, and a pipe for the into the well, and or maybe a submergible pump, and then a pipe can be directly given connection to the homes. That's what we now open the wall and we get cold water, warm water. This probably even the people living in the palaces of past India or past Europe could not have it at just 200 years back, or maybe even 100 years back. So we are living a life of luxury, but every time there is sometimes some gap. So there is always scope, like, you know, if you see NGOs, they keep complaining, you know, there is child labor and all these things. So so one can invent new devices which can substitute this kind of human labor, right? That's what I perceive engineering as, you know. So if you take this as the motive, we'll be able to observe nature and mimic it and produce many types of devices. Now let us come to the topic, how these devices come into being, or sometimes in production, how one can make perfect products. So before going there, I'll just tell that various types of engineers, like maybe in the this particular session, there are faculty and students from various departments like civil engineering, metallurgy, mechanical, electrical, chemical, electronics, computers and hardware, and biotechnology. In the past, as I heard, let us take civil engineering. Why is it called civil engineering? It could have been called construction engineering. The reason is all the engineering things were first developed in military. Okay, so there was only defense military engineering like that. So when it was used for public, after they have developed that, used that, and come up with a new technology, the old technology is transferred to the civilian society. So that's why civil engineering, and there was another military engineering. Yeah. Gradually, number of other branches came into being: metallurgy, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, all these things. Right. In the past also, if you see, like if you read ancient books of India, there was metals, gold was there, silver was there, copper was there, iron was there, steel was there. So metallurgy is an ancient branch of engineering. So the new branch, what I feel is that which made a difference in the world, or which gave advantage to European countries, was the electrical engineering. Right, and mechanical, electrical and mechanical together. For example, the invention of magnet, or the discovery of the magnet, the stone, the lodestone, which has the magnetic properties. So that created upper hand for the people who invented electrical devices. The only reason why I'm digressing, in the past, maybe it is no bias or something, but just a observation on the historical events is that if one is holding a sword and another guy is holding a rifle, pistol or gun, obviously the one with gun will win. So who did that? That's based on Newton's third law of motion, right? Action reaction. There is a explosion occurring inside a gun, and then that pushes the bullet, and it harms the opponent. So this actually is developed by engineer. The one who triggers a gun or one who pushes a button for a missile may not be an engineer, but the development of it is done by an engineer. So there is a lot of responsibility on part of the engineers to take up which are activities or inventions which may have wrong or the detrimental effect on the society, right? Like I just said, a person pressing a button for a missile launch may not be an engineer. He would not know what happens, but the engineer develops it. His opinion may be yes or no. Okay, his opinion may be yes or no to whether to use a missile on other people to kill them. Right, he may be a pacifist. So the soft skills or the psychology of a person is very important. So one has to have a responsible role as an engineer so that the products they develop will have only good effect and not harmful effect on the people and the society. In fact, when Albert Einstein, he was interviewed after the Japan bombing and those things, atomic bomb, he participated in the Manhattan Project, developing the atomic bomb and all those things. So he was repenting that why did I work on this? Because it has led to killing of people and things like that. So that's why engineers have, a good intellectual and IQ to develop devices, but at the same time, one has to look at the ethics of utilizing that. So a far-fetched future view is required on part of the engineers, not just working as in a mechanical manner. Okay. So now, what are the major activities of engineers? So these we have to kind of make the students aware of. Basically, manufacturing is the first type of thing, and project management and services, troubleshooting, innovation, and R&D. Usually, the students in engineering, they first get manufacturing job. I mean, in a plant. Let us say a simple thing like manufacturing of carbonated these Pepsi and Coca-Cola, that companies, simple companies, okay, but they have big brands. So manufacturing is or automobile manufacturing. And then project management is required when some new factory is being set up. When a new factory is being set up, one needs to plan their activities. Like first 1 month, what will be the groundwork done? Second month, what will be done? Like that, or week wise. So project management is also essential. And how can we make them understand this? Maybe we can give their BTech project or their undergraduate project where one can implement the Microsoft or some other platform-based project management software. So something like, filling the activities completed and activities pending. So an accountability is maintained. Next, services, like for example, consultancy services as a software engineer or even a general engineer. Yeah, services. Troubleshooting is where engineers are considered the best. Okay? If there is some failure in the TV, what do? We take to a mechanic shop, and he will somehow figure out what is the trouble, and then maybe replace a small capacitor or something, and then the thing starts to work. So that is the troubleshooting. Getting back the equipment to work in a short time is a reflection of the ability of the particular engineer. Okay. Next, last is innovation and R&D. Normally, if you go to a production company, let us say a cement company or automobile company, nobody wants change in their production line. Everyone, the manager or the people working, they want same thing repeating every day, so that no need to use our brain. But innovation is the need of the hour, right? As everyone understand, like cell phones, earlier we had only a normal display only, and then only radio used to come. Now YouTube channel also comes in the phone. You can do internet banking transfers. All these things can be done. So why are that the companies are constantly innovating? Because that is because of the need of the people, consumers, as well as some companies. I read a book written by the owner of Sony company. He said that every 2 years or 3 years, they want to outdate their own product. Suppose if Walkman was there, like, earlier days, there used to be a cassette in that, and then earplugs, and people used to go for jogging. That one, now nobody is using. Everybody uses cell phone, directly connects to YouTube for songs and any things they want to listen. So that's why innovation that requires a different type of characteristic in the engineer or a person to do innovation. Like, many people don't like change in their routine work, so they are more suitable for manufacturing. But if someone is open-minded and curious about new things, then that person can go into innovation and R&D. Okay. Now, what are the basic traits that an engineer, a BTech student can learn to become an effective engineer in their professional career? First is attention to details. This arrow mark shows these things are to be learned before going to the next step. Or it can be vice versa, but if a formal training has to be given to a student, we should incorporate in our curriculum these in this manner, like bottom to top. Attention to details, logical thinking, continuous learning, problem solving, then creativity, analytical ability, mathematical ability, and then soft skills like team player, communication skills, leadership. And that will give a good professional career to any student who is passing out. And within 5 to 10 years, you can achieve all these traits. And of course, like, one has to give back to the juniors, these abilities. So then they will improvise on that and then improve it. And then the industry will sustain. Yeah. So let me explain one by one what each one means. There is only a subtle difference between each one of them. For example, attention to details and logical thinking. What is a slight difference? So these are learned probably primarily during college studies, based on our assignments, mini projects, like degree end, program end project. During the college studies, students learn these traits. But these are not, it cannot be told that, okay, today I'm doing this project, by tomorrow I'll have that trait of analytical ability. It takes some time. So one has to go through a number of training processes. It can be part of the course itself. So during college studies, these traits are developed. And after joining the companies also, many corporate companies and even MSMEs, medium and small enterprises, they train the employees both on technical and soft skills. That is important. And suppose if someone has free time in their summer holidays, students can attend personality development courses, and then they can improve upon their capabilities. So attention to details is something like, let us say, cars coming out of a assembly line in a manufacturing site. Every car should have all the parts. So something like a tick list is important, or a checklist. Okay, a checklist will ensure that all the parts are there in the car. So, for example, when I visited the General Motors manufacturing in Vadodara, they start with the empty chassis, that is the frame, and by the end of the day, that comes out as a finished car. So now, if you miss any single part, again the consumers will complain, or there may be not perfect functioning of the car because of missing some part. So attention to detail is required when it is a production process, assembling many parts, even in electronic industry. So a checklist is important. Okay, the success of a production depends on the attention paid to the detail. It is said by one of the production managers. So how do we train students in this area? So we can have a question given to them, a mini project or assignment, and at the end of the problem, they will have a checklist. Units are all in SI system, that is meters, kgs, like that. Tick, yes or no. So that it will be like a self-evaluation by the student themselves. So that helps in improving their professional ability and bringing up the standards of engineering. So attention to details is important, especially in the production process. Next is logical thinking. So here we have to learn something from the books of psychologists and also medical people. They have identified that there is something called left brain and the right brain. Left brain controls the right part of the body and the right brain controls the left part of the body as far as the physiological functions are concerned. But left brain is more about organized thinking, problem solving, analyzing, these kind of things. Right brain is about creativity. Suppose you want to paint something without looking at anything, you want to paint something on the canvas. So it starts with some strokes and then ends up finally it comes out as a nice mountain and sun and trees and things like that. So that is like creative thinking. Okay. So, but we are talking about logical thinking. So logical thinking is something where our left brain is very active. The ability of an individual to think or base their thoughts on facts and evidences is known as logical thinking. Facts and evidences, right? If someone says that Earth is flat, whether to believe it or not, right? So, I mean, like if you take 5 kilometers far, it's still Earth is coming. So, how can you make sure they understand bring that understanding in somebody that Earth is round? You have to take them to space. From space, you take a photograph. Then that photograph will show the Earth as a sphere, circular. Then the person who sees that will believe it. So that kind of orientation in our mental thought process is called as logical thinking. It is based on facts and evidences. Okay, so the opposite of logical thinking is emotional thinking. That means where we believe in some miracles and things like that. By tomorrow, in cartoons, we see small children. They will think, okay, I'll sleep, but by tomorrow morning, the homework should be completed in the notebook. And he finds that the homework is completed in the morning. So that is a miracle kind of thing. So it's the opposite of that. So logical thinking, for everything, there is a reason. So that kind of basis is called logical thinking. And usually it is associated with left brain of our thinking. Okay, the neurons and all the assembly of brain present on the left side does the most of the activity. For healthy state of mind, one has to exercise both. We'll come to right brain activities. I told you painting and these kind of things. So a person who is having logical thinking, he first collects information, analyzes, he forms a conclusion and he supports the conclusion. Okay. Then once he supports his own conclusion, he can defend that conclusion in front of anybody else. Okay. For example, if you throw a ball up, the time taken for either it is a copper ball or a steel ball or a silver ball, it goes up and comes back in the same time. Okay, that is a hypothesis. So that type of or a conclusion, he can defend it if he completely understands it. That okay, there is a gravitation acceleration due to gravity. The height traveled upwards is h is equal to half gt square, what they learn in +2. Then one can confidently defend what they are proposing. So a person who is having logical thinking will try to defend. Of course, it will be in that domain. You cannot ask him, suppose if you ask a logical thinking person, okay, everyone believes that God is there, you show me where God is. Then he cannot, because he cannot prove it. So, but that doesn't mean that that person need not be an atheist. Okay, it is just because one cannot show the proof, you need not move away from that philosophical stand. Okay. But in general, logical thinking means it is based on facts and evidences. Okay? So a person will always, if something is, like a long and wavy pattern, it's a snake. That is that's an assumption. So opposite of assumption is fact. So he will believe only in photos and real videos and things like that. Okay, next is for the students, it's very important to have continuous learning. They have to read journals and also books. That process of learning by oneself has to be trained in the college, okay, during the 4 years or 3 years of the bachelor's degree. So continuous learning is the process of learning new skills and knowledge on an ongoing basis. So one need not throw up all the books once the degree is given. One has to, read that column of engineering column in a newspaper or a magazine and keep update with the latest versions of the technology. Okay, that's about continuous learning. Okay, next is problem solving. This is also important. Suddenly there is, let us say there is a fire or some spillage of oil in the factory. What to do, how to solve it, how to solve the problem, right? So that is also a skill. Okay? Problem solving is the process of finding solution to difficult or complex issues. Okay? That's a definition of problem solving. And it is about framing the question. The difference between college education and real life production or the industry is the problem statement is not given in the real life, and whereas in the textbook problem statement is given. So like Albert Einstein said, most of the time is in defining the problem. Once the problem is defined, what to be found, given what information, okay, then it is just 5 to 10% of the time for solving it. Yeah. So everyone learns solving the problems given in the textbook. So it is the most learned trait by our students. So that's why most of our students are good at IT problems, like software problems. Given some objective, they can easily write a code. Next, creativity is important. Creativity is required not only to invent something, but also to reduce the capital cost, operating cost in an industry. So a creativity means deviation from some routine thing. Okay, so that is why there is a Venn diagram here. There should be a deviation, there should be a connection to the topic, and action has to be taken. Just thinking in the mind, okay, I will develop some material, new plastic which will dissolve in soil in 100 days. So biodegradable plastic. But that action has to be taken. One has to take the idea to the lab and then implement it. Then only some result will come. Okay, it is said that one has to keep trying, because if we try, at least there is a risk of failure. But if we don't try, I mean, 100% there is failure. Okay, so creative people are those who come up with more ideas in a shorter space of time. So, for example, you can give some blocks, just like for the 5-year-old, 3-year-old kids, we give those blocks and ask the students to construct something, some shape. So these activities can be taken up in the tutorial hours. And then the definition of creativity is, we talked about left brain and right brain. Creativity is the use of imagination or intuition to bring forth a novel and original concept or device. So intuition means, mathematically, if, I can say that it is like extrapolation. If there is a straight line with dots, if you put a dot in between, we can tell the x and y coordinates, but we do not know how the curve will be beyond those limits. So that extrapolation is intuition, and imagination is all about right brain. So one way to improve right brain activity is, maybe we can tell the students, suppose if they are right-handed writers, I mean, they use right hand to write on the notebook, just ask them to try writing with left hand for 10 minutes and then do another exercise, like give them blocks and see what they come up with. So it is interlinked, right? I mean, like when the left side of the body is functioning, it creates some activity in the right brain. Or if the right brain is creating some impulses and signals, the left part of the body will act. So that is why many we find left-handed batsmen to be very good. Okay, so that's about creativity, and it is not like that I'm branding it. It's just that one has to balance both. Otherwise, it will become imbalanced state of mind. Left brain activity has to be 50%, right brain activity has to be 50% to have a balanced innovation. So it is like somebody wants to develop a machine. So he will sit in the lab, assemble some of the parts, and then maybe it is not working. Then he goes to a shop or a shopping mall where there are like marketplace for electronic goods and all these things. He sees several things. He then identifies something that can be retrofitted. So he brings something. So there he has some dots of knowledge and connecting it with available other resources and making a overall picture. So that is the ability of a creative. So we should not brand anybody as this person is creative, this person is non-creative. It is only a creative activity and non-creative activity. So everyone will have multiple states of mind in different points of time. Okay, next is analytical ability. We have talked about logical thinking. Similar to logical thinking, analytical ability is also somewhere high in the pyramid of these Bloom's taxonomy, which many of us faculty know it, that the questions can be framed just based on knowledge, sometimes on comprehension, application, analysis. That is where analytical ability comes in. So analytical ability is the act of gathering information from various sources and correlating the cause-effect relationship among the key variables involved. So the cause-effect relationship, suppose someone is asked why there is suddenly high temperature, global warming type of phenomena in the summer. We can say because of, arbitrarily we can say it is because of automobiles. But why? Because there is this diesel and petrol burnt, and the gases CO2 is generated, greenhouse gas, and it blocks the sun rays from reflecting, therefore the temperature increases. So how to make that connection? That connection can be made if the student or the person is able to work in the framework of there is a cause, there is an effect for it. Okay, and again, it is like opposite of magic. In a magic show, I mean, there is no logic in that, right? I mean, you cannot analyze where it's how the whatever pigeon is appearing. Okay, but then there will be a reason. If probably if you closely observe, one can find out there is a cause for that, why this effect is happening. Right. So the 6 is the analytical ability. And again, there is convergent thinking, divergent thinking, which is important. That happens again when there are 2 or 3 people interacting, 2 or 3 students interacting, and then trying to come up with a new device or so. Then mathematical ability is important. Now, once I described that when we throw a object up like a sphere, it takes h height traveled is equal to half gt square. So if you know the height it traveled, the time spent by it can be calculated and vice versa. So for that, some mathematics is required. Sometimes people are very creative, like coming from humanities department and so on. But because they may not be able to interpret it in mathematical form, the complete invention doesn't happen. So one has to interact with people from engineering background because they have mathematics as their subjects. So mathematical ability is about working with these 4 symbols: minus, plus, multiplication, division. And the most important thing is the equation, equal to sign. If we have an equation, right, suppose x plus y is equal to 3 and then x minus y is equal to 1, then we can easily find out the answer. So it is about learning this ability. So whatever we teach in the engineering courses, it only gives them the ability, mathematical ability. But finally, implementing that requires soft skills. Okay? Mathematical ability is the act of finding solution to a problem stated in the form of symbolic representation of equations. Okay, so equations have to be represented and then solved. And mathematics has so many different branches: arithmetic, trigonometry, analysis, statistical analysis, geometry, algebra, all these things. So one person cannot learn everything, and one person need not be like a one-man army developing the technology for the entire world. It has to be a team effort. Okay? So a team player is a person who participates in collective or group tasks, either supporting or taking part in it. Okay, so it's like one person is a bowler. Okay, so another person is in the fielding. So it is a team effort. So that kind of team effort can synchronize. It can synergize the effect. So one person working alone, second person working alone. But if you put 2 people together, and if they are working in a team manner, it will be very, very effective. Of course, if the team doesn't gel, let us say one very good bowler is there, but the person in the field is not a good friend of him, so he slips the catch. So then how will the bowler be successful? So it is very important that it is common goal is important for a team player. So that is what it is, collective or group task. So the objective should be very clear among the team members. So in this context, I would like to say that suppose we are conducting exams where one student writes and a separate answer sheet. Instead, yeah, we can have 2-3 students together writing, answering a question paper where they can discuss and write the answers. Okay, and then the marks can be given uniformly. Suppose 80 marks come, if all the 3 members get 80 marks. Now, if there is some kind of discord between the team members, that okay, the one student thinks that if I am only telling all answers, the other guy is just getting marks based on my intelligence. So that feeling has to be overcome in order to be a team player. Yeah. So again, one more definition of team. A team comprises of a group of people linked in a common purpose. Teams are especially appropriate for conducting tasks. As I said, suppose if you see a construction in the construction of a building, there will be people standing every 4 feet apart, and one person will be throwing a stone, second person catching it and throwing it. Now, imagine the first person throwing the brick to the second person without looking at the second person. I have noticed such activity. How they are able to do that? Because this person, first person, trusts that the second person will catch it. Second person trusts that he doesn't put it on his head or the legs. Okay, so that trust is very important in a team in order to be effective, right? I mean, with small individual skills, a trustable team, that is with interpersonal relationships, will win bigger matches as compared to a set of team having highly skilled people but with less trust among them. Okay? And in fact, it doesn't lead to any active or the result without trust among the team players. Okay, finally it is about let us come to interviews. That's where our students go to jobs, right? I mean, in the interview, the technical person may ask some questions, but what will the HR person be doing? HR person will be observing the body language of the students as they are attending the interview. Whether, you can infer whether they are interested in the company or whether they are viable for learning, or they are flexible in their approach to solving problem, whether they are respectable to the elders or seniors in the company. All these doesn't come from, we cannot give a question paper and get that. So this has to be there in the body language of the people. Okay. In fact, they say that when we give an answer to a question, 60% and 70% of the correctness of the answer is in the tone of the what we speak. Okay. So, I mean, in this context, there are many characteristics one can learn, like listen carefully, maintain eye contact, be clear while speaking, be open-minded, be confident. Many sub-characteristics are required in order to have good communication skills. So communication skills means what? What is communication? Like whatever we want to tell has to be received by the other person, and that person has to understand it. Okay, so that involves several steps in the process. So that's where these communication skills are very important. Of course, we cannot like say maintain eye contact means we cannot stare and kind of threaten the other person that you should understand this. That's where students, they get small children, and especially up to 10 years, school children, they get offended or get afraid of the teachers. Whereas adolescent students, like what we have, like bachelors in either science or humanities or engineering, they are like, they can be trained. Okay, we can have a dialogue with them and things like that. So communication is the activity of passing on ideas or requests or instructions to others. Yeah, next we go to the last one. It's about leadership. See, suppose if a group of 10 people are asked to go to the very edge of our let us say village or the town, and ask them to find out where is the next village. Okay, so someone has to tell in which direction we have to go. So, some direction. Like it can be done in many ways. One is by domination, where there is no freedom given to others. Other is a democratic way. Then the third is this leadership characteristic. That is, leadership is the ability to influence team members to achieve a common goal. Right? So it may be that suppose if there is a run-out happening in the cricket match, one is a good batsman, other is a little less ability batsman. Now, if the less ability batsman gets himself out, then there is a chance of that team winning because the other guy is better than him. So that kind of characteristics are needed. Leadership is again, it's several types. There are many books on that, leading from the front or leading from behind. But all these require these things. Efficient communication is important. Like not necessarily humans. Like if you see birds flying in the air, one bird will be flying in the front and behind other birds will be following. Okay, so that means the other birds are trusting the bird in the front that it is going in the correct direction of what they are looking for. Okay. So efficient communication, knowledge, consistency, visionary outlook, selflessness, courage, willpower, honesty. These all remained, of course, if I have to tell Mahatma Gandhi, if you read his book, he talks about all these things. So these are all the qualities of leadership. It doesn't require any special effort. One has to be having that. People say leaders are born or something, but one can gain these qualities, at least try, if they are not. Let us say we accept that to some extent, but it is not totally blocked that a person will not become a leader of a team. So it is possible with developing all other characteristics. Okay, so now I want to give some reference. There is a book by Edward de Bono on 6 thinking hats. So especially it is about, we should not brand a person. Okay, he is very, creative person. He's a logical person. He's a problem solving person. It is the situation that is like that. So a single person can take the role, playing the role of a that type of creative person, playing the role of an analytical thinker, playing the role of a problem solver, or playing the role of a leader. So these are all like what the 6 thinking hats he was saying about. So we should make our students versatile, that it is not that only one person or one quality is attributed to a person. Instead, it's the situation that should be attributed. Okay. And again, I'm presenting the Bloom's taxonomy here. We have read about it, and the questions that we frame in the or the assignments that we give to the students should be consisting of all these type of things, so that then we'll be able to assess the students. Grading also will be easier. That's a different story. Like as a teacher, I want all my students to get excellent grade. Okay? Because otherwise I would have failed, right? As a teacher, I fail if all my students don't get excellent grade. But at the end of the day, we want to give grades, as some as excellent, some as C, some as D, like that. So for that purpose, one can design a question paper where one question is about understanding or remembering, one question is about analyzing, and finally creating something like that. So I'm going to the last but one slide. Since Dr. Ritesh has introduced my small book on success, a deja vu moment, it is about, like let us say someone is a ranker, state ranker, or a CBSE topper in the country. That person or student would have imagined all through the 2 years that I want to be topper. And the result comes. When the result comes, he's a topper. Okay. So what difference does it make to him? Because all the while he was thinking he was a topper, or he wants to become a topper, and the result is also the same. So that is the meaning of deja vu moment. So it's only a moment. Success is only a moment. So that's why students have to adopt a moving target. They first get, let us say, get good rank, get exam in the end of BTech, and get a job. Then they should keep another target. Okay, become a professional engineer, certified engineer, like that. So that is one thing. And in the as a student career, I'm only putting here, showing here the engineering various programs BTech, MTech, PhD like that. During BTech, one learns the basics. Then he competes with the colleagues or the peers in the class for getting good grades. Then projects are also given by teachers, does some creativity. Then, see, the competition is to get first rank in the class. But it can only be 85% of the marks is sufficient to become class first. But perfection is about getting 100 marks, irrespective of the others' competition. So that, in principle, one will be going through these traits. Then originality is very important. Like when they do a project or a new innovation is done or file a patent, originality is required. And then comes the soft skills. One has to be proud of what their profession is, right? So then only they can say that, okay, confidently, yeah, I'm a electrical engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, like that. And after that, one need not restrict to their own branch. Okay, if I'm a chemical engineer or electrical engineer, should I always do a job in electrical engineering? No. Okay, then one has to execute the freedom option. So you can learn another subject. If you can learn one subject in 4 years, another subject can be learned in 2 years or so. So there, the freedom is very important. And then finally, now freedom is something doesn't mean that you do haphazardly many things. After going through this, all these steps, one will come to a point where he becomes self-disciplined. Okay? I have a spelling mistake is there, self-disciplined, this one, self-discipline. So it's about self-discipline is about the students, let us say they are given assignment. They should not be reminded again and again by the teacher that you guys have not submitted the assignment or you should not copy these things. So these traits also can be taught during the course of our the undergraduate program or the postgraduate program. So you can download this book and you may pass me the comments if you are interested. Okay, so I have kind of completed the traits, the 10 traits required in engineer to become a successful professional, and also what are the traits achieved by the students or professional when they are aiming for success and achieve that when they achieve that success, they go through various steps. So next slide, yeah, is about we have to be proud to be an engineer and celebrate the profession. And just to recollect, Sir M. Vishweswaraya was a famous engineer from India. His birthday, 15th September, is celebrated as Engineers Day. Okay, so next time, please, all of the engineers, or even one doesn't have to have a degree to be called an engineer, right? So even others can also join the celebrations. Yeah. So finally, I thank Dr. Ritesh and everyone in the participants for being attentive. I'll be happy to have any discussions. In fact, we can have discussion among the participants also. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for this wonderful presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Shall I stop sharing? Or should I keep the slides if someone wants to ask something from the slides?
No, you may stop, so we'll have a discussion.
Yeah. Sure.
That will be better.
Yeah.
Sir, in line with the discussion you had, I would like to add a few points.
Sure.
Like you mentioned like this is for the engineers, but as we are discussing from last 4 to 5 days, there are many educationalists, those who are looking for the NEP sector. Right now, we are looking for the National Education Policy.
Yeah.
So whatever you have mentioned, all these are the part of NEP now.
Okay.
We need to inculcate everything as a part of NEP.
Yes.
Like either in terms of motivation, in terms of your content, in terms of your
Yes.
knowledge, whatever it may be.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. That's why, I have discussed, as Dr. Ritesh was saying, what is the difference between why everyone wants to live in USA? Because I have lived there for 4 years. and I have not heard a single car horn, the beep sound in the 4 years. But when we come to our cities, we hear every driver like they start using the horn. So that reason is because they go through a rigorous training process in whatever field they take, and they become expert in that. They have actually most of the population there, and their education system is not so question oriented, but more of practical oriented. Because of that, they have achieved self discipline, right? Nobody is breaking the rules in the traffic. So that's the reason why it is so organized, and that will come. And we cannot all at once create the infrastructure that is there in the US or any developed country in India. We may have to see the root cause. Root cause are the root characteristic that has to be there in our students. So at least next generation, they will create a more organized society. I'm not saying that there are no positives or no greatness in our say Indian originated knowledge. There is in fact, yeah, which other countries may not have, but we can adopt some of the best practices from all over the world. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Participants, if you have any question or if you want to discuss with the sir, you may raise your hand. So I will give you rights to unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone. It was a very nice session. These things that Sir has mentioned, that the student has to be working continuously. It's a continuous learning process. I fully agree to that. And the students, they are just getting new skills and knowledge, and that is an ongoing process. So we do agree to that. And all these things that you have mentioned are really applicable. And as we have the millennial learners, right? The 21st century, we are having the students that are very active. And so all these applications really work for it. So thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Archana. Yeah, in fact, the present day colleges, the teaching learning process, it is outcome based. Outcome based learning is oriented towards what the student can do after the 3 or 4 years of the degree. Rather than, earlier it was like the teacher was evaluated for whether the syllabus was completed or not. But now the evaluation should be based on the student's ability. Student's ability, what is the new thing the student achieves at the end of the program.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So, sir, we are discussing about all these issues like research methodology. What is the difference between the research technique and research methodology? Yesterday, we had a session by Dr. KV Jaikumar from
Okay. Yes.
So he discussed all these points, how to do the research or how to go with the research writing, then proposal, what should be the quality. So he mentioned some of the points there as well. How to inculcate these research abilities with the help of these points you have mentioned here.
Yes.
Because you have to start everything at the start of your graduation itself.
Yes.
To have good researcher capabilities.
Yep. Yeah, again, it is like Edward Bono said, there are 6 thinking hats. So, I mean, one will get mentally tired if 100% of the time we do research. So, one has to do various activities to keep themselves healthy in our brain activity as well as physical fitness and overall a good, successful career and a good character in the view of everyone. Finally, my view is that it may not require 2050 plan or 2047 plan. It is just a change in the mindset which can bring a developed state of our infrastructure and other in general approach to lifestyle, and then make our country into a role model actually. Because if you look for, you want to be number one, the number two will always be after us.
Yes.
Okay, so we should best is if we can be a role model, then others will imitate us. Then everybody will be similar. Like we'll be taking the best practices from all over the world and also giving back to everyone our practices also.
And I think that was one of the point mentioned by one of the speaker. Like initially we had universities like Nalanda and Takshashila, so we were role model.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah, in fact, that can be like, I mean, we need not, hurry for becoming number one ranked NIRF, this competition and all those things. Competition is actually, if you see our, that progress of traits, it's only second step. After learning, competition is only a second step. Beyond that, there are many things like creativity, originality, freedom, all these things.
freedom is very important in terms of research.
Yes, fine. I mean, like we are a declared free country, so freedom should be exercised by everyone to select their own choice of profession and pursue it to become great in that. And regarding the traits, there are many Indian poems like be it poetry either in Hindi or Telugu or Tamil, like so we have to see the reverse. Suppose there is a sentence, okay? It's in Telugu. I do not know how many of you can understand it. I will translate it. It says that education gives humbleness to a person. So you have to see the reverse. Suppose when we see a person interviewing a student for a job, if he is humble, then automatically he would be good in some subject. Instead, if we keep testing him about whether you know the subject or not, we may miss whether he is really, got good education or not. Yeah. So that way, there are many, these personality development oriented poetry in India. We need not resort to only Edward de Bono. It's only an example book that I have given. Yeah.
And just to generalize, sir, what you said in terms of transport phenomena, like for any rate of any transfer process, the driving force divided by resistance. So we need to reduce that resistance. That is what you mentioned in this talk.
Yes. So the student has to be mentally prepared for the transformation. Suppose if we want to make him more creative, he has to start using the right brain. So the student should be willing to use the right brain. If he resists that, then we cannot bring the transformation. Yeah, as you said rightly, yes, the preparedness from the student, willingness from the student is very important. Yeah.
Yesterday, one speaker, he was from Nagpur, director of Priyadarshi Institute of Colleges. So he mentioned about this left brain and right brain, how we can improve our skills.
Yes. Yeah, for that there are online, quizzes. One can take those quizzes, and then the test it will show whether how much percentage of it is left brain and how much percentage we are. Our goal should be to be balanced, 50-50. It should be. Yeah, we should be able to logically think as well as creatively, produce new inventions and things like that.
Actually, that was my next question, which you answered. How to go with whether which brain you're working and how much percentage. So I think
yes. Yes.
We should try.
So that's why, as a researcher, what I do is that morning I do most of theory and computations. Afternoon, I prefer to visit a lab and then sit in front of an experiment and just watch, look for the experimental observations. So that gives us some ideas and things like that. Yeah. So we have to, it's about balancing. We cannot complain that I don't have, mathematical ability. It can be learned. Anything can be learned. Only thing we have to put some that learning effort. After the learning curve is reached, one will become expert in that. Yeah.
Just for information of participants, I would say like what sir was mentioning that we have to learn new things. So I have two role models in my life, like one of my PhD supervisor, Professor Vidyasagar Shilapuram, and then Sunil Kumar sir. Both of them are
Okay.
having these qualities. They used to learn new things. They used to think
Yeah.
something differently.
Yeah. Sure. Great, Dr. Ritesh, for this opportunity. And I thank all the participants once again. Yeah, I have given my email ID. It is there with Dr. Ritesh also. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, then thank you very much, sir, for
Yeah.
accepting our invitation and
Sure.
joining.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of Marwadi University and organizing team, I thank you for joining this session. We will be in touch, sir, and we are looking forward for
Sure.
your presence here in offline mode as well, since we
Sure.
have started operating in offline.
Yeah.
So shortly, I'm willing that you should, and all the faculties from NIT Warangal or from the IIT Tirupati, they should come to our premises
Sure.
and
We'll
bless
visit.
us.
We'll visit.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll visit and we'll interact. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Dr. Ritesh. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, dear participants, for joining this session. We'll meet at 2 p.m. for our valedictory remarks by our Dean, Sir Amit Satra, Sir, Associate Dean, who will discuss about the funding opportunities once again, what you should do after your PhD, or if how to implement or how to start with the funding. So please be with us at 2 p.m. and then we will have some announcement related to your participation certificates, and there are few awards as well for the participants. So please stay tuned for the valedictory function. So we'll join at 2 p.m. sharp.